men plus the keeper around the batsman.
There we go. Fleming took the last one. Merv Hughes before him.
Oh, he's got him! Yes, he has! He's got him! It's a hat-trick! Yes, he's gone! He's gone! It's a hat-trick! That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne. A great moment in his career. What a catch by David Booth. You won't see many better catch than forward short leg than that one. The Aussies are all around, and have a look at that.
G'day everyone, welcome to SuperCoach Tragics BBL, and tonight we have with us a crew of Brod, Dan and Ross, and later on Timmy will be joining us from Queensland. He's running a bit late and Brod will probably drop out. How you going, Brod?
Yeah, good mate. Pretty excited to get the BBL season up and running.
Nice.
It's probably one where I've averaged the best, so pretty keen to kick it off.
Yeah, you do all right in BBL, eh?
Thank you.
Yeah. Dan, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad, mate. I'm just getting a lot of draws. I'm resorting to jumping onto World Cup fantasies and stuff and some horse racing fantasy stuff just to fill the void. So really looking forward to the BBL. And like Rod said, I think it's probably the one I probably averaged the most in as well. Came 671st last year. So looking to try and get better than that this year.
Yeah, nice. It's not a bad rank. I mean, top 1K is good in BBL or in any form of Supercoach. I've done pretty well the last few years myself in Supercoach with BBL. It's top 500, I think, the last 4 years. Like 314 last year. Oscar, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. It's good to be back and ready to go for another season. Only got 8 days to go, so ready to go. Super pumped.
We've got some exciting comps going this year, which will be great. I've got the Shane Warne Cup that's going this year. I'll read that out quickly I won't read everybody out, obviously, but I'll just read out the teams that have been confirmed to quickly start. So we've got SuperCoach Guns. We've got a side that I can't see because it's brown. Big Score Society, SuperCoach Playbook. We've got the Herbie Cup, Rod Marsh Cup, Mancad, Mandate, Twitter Boys, Tragics, SuperCoach 360, SuperCoach Hub, SuperCoach Experience, and Playbook I think I've left out. And there's also one called Late to the Game. So they'll be in. So we've got, I think 60 runners this year, which Dan and I will be running together. We'll do scoring of 30 each. Makes the season a bit more exciting. And just quickly for those, I'll run over 2 things. We've got the Tragics overall comp, which has got a $50 prize if you want to jump in, which is 373059. I was going to read out all of them, but there's so many of them that Kane's put up a list, and I'll put it up after our pod or above our pod, the list of all the other pods that you can join in, because I think there's a few. One's got $100 and one's got a couple of rings. So there's some good prizes out there, guys, and it's just good to, face up against others.
I just want to know how the boys are going to get my Krispy Kremes to me when I win it.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. Krispy Kremes. I thought that was awesome.
I hope it's a 12-pack.
So we'll start with you, Brod. Can you tell everyone, mate, about the cash comms? So you've been running the cash comms now for us. This is the 4th season, right?
Yeah, 4th league.
Yeah, 4th season.
Yeah, no, so obviously, most trusted probably cash comps out there. I've only got 2 leagues left, so 100 and a 20 head-to-head. But I've got my 50, 100 and 20 overall still open until game day. Sitting around... we should be able to hit about 8K, 9K worth of cash comps in BBL, which is a pretty good number for us. So,
yeah,
if you want, obviously hit me up in the chats and jump into the overalls.
So I'll put that up on our page as well, guys. So if you want to get into one of the cash leagues, like as Roger said, every season they've been paid out. They're paid out straight away. As people know, there's been a few people that have been pretty sketchy around the ropes over the years, but so that's why we've got Brod running them, and they've always been paid. And the mass of us are now jumping into those cash leagues because we know it's a trusted source. So the next thing I was going to talk about real quickly is I thought we'll talk about the keepers, guys, because I'm getting a lot of messages about what keepers you're going with. And so I'll come to you first, Roscoe. What keepers you're looking at owning, mate?
Well, Josh Inglis, I've got him definitely locked in at the moment. He's going to be my bench loot option type thing. I'll have him as my starting keeper, and my backup keeper, I haven't decided yet because I was looking at Sam Billings, but after reading today that he's probably not going to keep, it's kind of put me off it a bit. if Wade opens, I might run with Wade. I know he doesn't have the double, but I like him as an option. He's a good cheap option, but otherwise maybe Joe Clark. Jukes is. I'm just the more and more I look at him, the more I'm off him. I don't like it. I'm not liking what I'm seeing with Jukes at the moment. He's not doing too well at all at the moment. So he'll probably make his way to my team. But yeah, there's not a lot of options really. So I do see that McDermott's in the top top 10, which is interesting because he doesn't have a double for quite some time and he's 211k. So I'm not sure what everyone's seeing in him. If I was going to go a keeper other than maybe Wade that wasn't having the double, would probably be Philippi at 50k cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be honest with you, and he's in form as he saw last year. So
I'll come back to you next, Dan, and then Rod. But just on that, I'll just read out the numbers for that. So Dermy is 211 800k. He averages 73, which is a good average for a back, and he's 38% owned. And he scored 876 points last year. And Philippe is 168, 300, 58 average. He's 48% owned, 754. For me, Philippe makes a bit more sense given that there's a dual round 5. Dermy doesn't have one until round 8, which, it's a little insane to me. But look, people like to set and forget, and maybe that's what they're thinking. So what about you, Dan? What are you thinking about with your keepers, mate?
Well, I think Ingles is just there because you want to have that loop option there as well, and they're also looking forward to round 2 double. So I think Ingles is almost like an obvious choice there. I think the next obvious choice to me is Joe Clark playing that double, but having an opening batter that doesn't bowl is extremely risky at the same time. So I don't like really any options in the double game in the first round. But I'm going to go with one of them anyway. I think it's either going to be Jilks, which I'm really not happy about, or Clark. I think Clark has the higher upside, but also more expensive. So what trying to tip the scale over to which end? I'm not sure which end I'm going to go at, but I think I might lean into going Gilks just so I can free up some cash to build some cash elsewhere.
Yeah, points per dollar Gilks makes sense if he's got the right role. He needs to open for me to be even considered. If he doesn't open, then he's definitely not starting in my side. At the moment, I had the Gilks Ingles combo, and I have a third one I'm going to keep dark. Rod, keepers, mate. Who you looking at? Who you got?
And he's on mute. I'll mute him.
Have I muted him?
No, it's all good, mate.
There you go.
He's good.
Yeah, just because I've been pissed off with all the dropouts from internationals and players getting injured. I haven't started my team really. I've picked 4 players. That's all I've got my team. That's what my team's in at. Luckily, 2 of them are wiki keepers, but I'm looking to run Clark and Wade.
Okay.
Obviously Clark is the double, and then just Wade because of what he brings. So, but as I start putting more players in my team, I'll probably have to look at dropping Wade from that with that amount of money, but we'll see where I get to in the next couple of days.
Ideally, we'd like a 42k NPR if anyone's out there listening at the keeper role. That would be ideal. So I'll run through a few of those. So the ones that people are talking about is Clark, and I'll play devil's advocate as to why not and to why. So last year, a few people gave me a hard time about Clark, and because I knew how good Clark was, and he proved out to be as good as he is. Having said that, he struggled early on our wickets, and the fact that he hasn't played early here or hasn't played in the World Cup means that he could struggle a little. I'll just run through a little numbers for you. So Wade, you mentioned, he's 120k 400. He had an average last year of SuperCoach points of 41.5. He's 25% owned, so a quarter of the comp agree with you, boys, on Wade as an alternate. And he scored 498 points last season. The other ones that you didn't mention, so Bancroft could be an interesting one at 91,800, who's a possible chance of opening, who you can hold with the second round bye. And but the one that's highly owned that I just don't get is Nielsen at 62k, 29% ownership. He'll bat 6 or 7. He's as useful as the tits on a ball. Like seriously, for those 29% of out there, you give yourself an uppercut and fix it. That's just my perspective on that. There's one other one. Yeah, so that's Clark. So Clark's 153k, guys, 800. He averaged 53 Supercoach points last year. He's owned by 18% with 689 points he scored, which is quite impressive given the first 5 games he struck out pretty much every game. So you could almost say that 60% of them games he played, he scored some really impressive scores. The other ones in the comp obviously are Billings, carries out, Harper, Pearson, Inglis, Holt, Nielsen. So, it's pretty much slim pickings, isn't it, Guy? And you can understand why guys are going Dermy and Philippe. They're just saying, look, set and forget. But, if I was going to spend big, I'd probably go Philippe. If I was going to spend cheap, I'd probably look at Gilks and Inglis. The upside to Gilks is he plays the first round, so everyone gets a chance to have a look at him and see where he's named. If he's not named open, guys, throw him. But if he is points per dollar, it does make some sense.
Can I just say as well, if you are one of the set and forget guys, and you are, it is a strategy that people often use, a set and forget. I don't agree with it. I think it's good to play the double games. But if you're a set and forget guy, Sam Harper is actually not a bad option. He bats pretty high in the order usually, and he's also only 100,000.
Yeah.
So he has that potential. So I like him. Obviously, you need to watch the team list and see where he does bat, but he normally bats pretty high in the order. I don't mind Sam Harper as an option if you are the set and forget kind of guy, but if you wanted to play the double gamers and the buyers, then yeah, my suggestion is go the double gamers.
Can I just suggest again that, and play devil's advocate, Harper could go as high as to open, or he could bat as high as 7. So it's a
100%.
I mean, Finch, Marsh, Harvey, Madison, Wells, Russell, Harper is the order I have them in. But we all know that there'll be surprises. And look, Harvey and Harper have both opened in the past very successfully. They're both very good fielders. And I don't mind that shout at all, Dino, at all. I actually think that's not a bad shout, points per dollar. So, all right, boys, we're going to move on to Thunder. So I'll come to you first this time, Rod. What players in the Thunder do you have or do you like, or who you're thinking about getting?
So Thunder, I'm looking at.
He's muted.
Don't worry about me. Obviously, there's Hales, which everyone will look at some stage, especially the start that he had in this Aussie summer in the World Cup. Sam's my one that I'll definitely have no matter what. Who obviously we know can bat like an absolute gun and bowls 4 overs and at the death. And then my other one is just a cheeky little spinner, which I'm sure hopefully we can get some feedback here and see what people think about it. Does tend to chuck it sometimes, I've heard, but can go well on the Canberra pitch. So I do like him for the opening round.
To that point, the first 2 games that Thunder are playing at the SCG and at the ACT. Secondly, Thunder are known for playing 3 spinners, right? At the moment, they've got Jay Sanger, who could come in and bowl, but Green's the only known one, and Quadar if he gets into the side. They've signed 4 internationals, and so it's out of Farouk and Quadar who takes that 3rd spot. There's a very big chance that it could be Quadar, but even if it is, in my opinion, Green still bowls his 4. I actually don't mind that Green pod, mate. So Green at the moment, just for people know, he's 119, 200, averages Supercoach points 41, he's 9% owned, which is in pod territory at under 10%. Roscoe, who you got in the Thunder and who do you like?
So I've got Hales, I've got Sam's, obviously pending whether he plays or not, because as we know, he hasn't played for quite some time.
Yep.
And I've also got Riley Rosso, which I haven't seen him in many sides. I think people have been a bit off him after his World Cup performance because he's a bit rocks and diamonds, that bloke. He can either go really, really big or go nothing. But I just think for 105k when they've got back-to-back doubles, I think he's worth running the risk with. I think that's it. I did have Jukes, but I've gone off Jukes. So I don't think I'll have him in the team. And I've only touched my team once. I've got Farouk in there at the moment, but that's all going to depend on what happens. I probably won't start him because I've got a feeling with the double games that their role's going to change between him and Quadir. They'll probably, because they obviously both probably won't. They won't both play.
That's right.
So the only lock that we know is probably going to be is Rossell and Hales, and then obviously last spot's going to be between Farouk and Quadir. So that's it. But yeah, Sam's is a bit of a worry for me.
Yeah,
He's going to be coming into this first game underdone because he hasn't played any cricket for like nearly 2 months.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a concern.
it is a concern. And I mean, it's interesting. I was looking at the stats today on him and another player. They've got almost identical stats in the same side. One averages 61.1, which is Jason Sanger, and the other one's averaging 61.8, which is Sam's. They're both similarly priced. And I mean, most people probably can't afford to own both, given if they've got some of the other big names that are around. But Thunder are fairly popular, and it's interesting that the one that's on 0% averaged 51.1, which is Sandu. And I mean, I just think if you're absolutely looking for an absolute pod, Sandu isn't too.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, don't hate it at all.
Don't hate it at all. He's been in great form this year in Marsh Cup and Shield for the Bulls as well. He's been killing it this year. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, I don't hate the option. I think there's a lot of teams out there that still haven't touched their team since the start. Like
Yeah.
the Maxwell's still quite highly owned too.
Yeah, I know.
But I think once we get to next week or the end of this week, we'll have a bit more of an idea of where the ownership's going to sit. So I think Sandu will be a lot higher than that. I think it'll still be a pod, but
Yeah.
I think he's. I like the shout for Sandu.
Well, interestingly, Cutting's owned at 18%, right? Cutting will be bowl 2 overs a game and bat 7, but there are some rumours circulating that he could actually open. If he does open, there'll be a quick shuffle and a lot more people will bring him in just before the comp starts. So, Dan, did I come to you?
No, mate.
Yeah, Dan.
You did mention you might struggle to get Sam's and Sanger. I actually have them both. I think Sanger, like we mentioned before, with Tenvy not playing and being injured, I think Sanger gets a few more overs there. I think he's the captain too, so I'm pretty sure that he bats around 3 as well. I think at 177, I think it doesn't seem, it seems pretty expensive, but I think he's actually worth it. So I do like it.
Yeah, I absolutely love Sanger, mate. So as I said, they're bowling on spinners decks. They've only got one at the moment in there, which is Green. Even if they bring in the other one, Quadir, they are known for bowling 3 lots of spin, and they're playing on 2 spin decks. So I don't hate Sanger at all. Sanger is 177,200, and he's owned by 10%. So he's in pod territory. I think a lot of people are owning players like Thornton, Siddle, Short, Khan. There's a lot of players, Sams, who are around that price point, and they're struggling to get that extra one in. You can afford it if you neglect your bench, but do that at your own peril. The other one that we mentioned was Farouk. So he's 105K. He's only 2% owned. He is a death bowler for people that don't know. So he will bowl at the death, but I don't rate him. So take that as you will. Anything else anyone want to say on anything else to do with Thunder?
I just think it's too risky to go Farouk or to go Quadir. I mean, you're not going to know who's going to play which games. One of them might play 1 game, one might play 3. It's a risk. It's a risk for sure.
I'm tipping Thunder to have a chance at being the top pick of next year's draft.
They might have to scrap the draft next year anyway after this.
That was shit. It was horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, there's the amount of players that got signed and dropped out this year. And I mean, the other thing that people want to keep an eye on is there's still other signings that come in. And unlike NRL, in BBL, one signing can change the whole dynamic of a team. One player could come into that side and it literally could change the role for another player completely. So, and Perth, we know they've just lost Salt, Marsh and Morris. So, and we'll talk about on our next pod a bit more in depth about the draw and about Perth. So the next
Can I just say, Glenn, that I feel like something dodgy up with the draft, yeah? All of a sudden, these players were picked out of, and then all of a sudden they're out, and then we're signing these other ones that weren't in there, or it's all...
If you were signed to the Gauge, would you play?
Oh, look, I'm shit out, so I would.
Yeah,
But if I was good, I wouldn't.
Depends on how much money it's for.
Yeah, that's right. But I mean, I think Livingston, you know, he liked playing for Perth or one of those bigger sides, but the fact he got roped into to Renegades, you know, it looked a bit suspect, didn't he, that he dropped out the next day, and they started dropping like flies.
And now he's injured anyway, so a bit
karma. There's another one that happened to as well. I can't remember, but there's a few. All right, we'll jump into the Stars side, guys. I'll just read out so what I didn't do quickly is I'll just read out the predicted team, the lineup for Thunder, which is Alex Hales, Gilks, Sanger, Rosso, Oliver Davies, Sams, Cutting, Green, Sandu, Farouk, and Doggett. And so McAndrew could come in. Tavir Sanger's injured, and Tavir Sanger's still 8% owned. That lineup's only our guesstimate. You know what I mean? We all know that at the start of the comp, luckily Thunder play first and the Stars, so you'll be able to adjust your side 15, 20 minutes before for any late changes. So make sure you have a plan B. That anyone that plays SuperCoach well knows that you make several sides up, you know, and then you have a plan B. So such and such happens, you know, right, well, this is what goes on, this is what I'm doing. If such and such comes here, I'm going there. And so make sure you can veer left and veer right. All right, we'll go to the Melbourne Stars. So I'll read out their side quickly to you as well. So Stoinis, Clark will open, Larkin, Burns, Cardi, and Webster. Now, I'd just like to say quickly that Larkin, Burns, or Webster could all play anywhere in that top lineup. That could change. And if it does, keep your eye on one of those, Webster. NCN, Wood, Zampa, Couch, and Bolt. And they've got a bit on the bench there that could come in at any time as well. But that's the lineup that I think they'll run with. Who are you looking at in that side, Roscoe?
So at the moment I've got Joe Clark, I've got Stoinis, which everyone should have Stoinis in their team. I've got Zampa, and I've got Bolt, and I also have Nick Larkin too as a cheap option. I think he's a lock at 62k, bench loop option at 62k, and Webster, like you said, and we mentioned, and Brad mentioned on the pod last night that we did as well with the 360 guys, is that Webster could be another option too. He has been bowling a fair few overs in Marsh Cup and Shield for Tasmania too, so he's also 62k, so he might be another one to look at as well for sure.
With Maxwell dropping out, that number 3 spot's up for grabs. I believe it goes to Larkin, but I believe that Webster could play that Maxwell type role, which he could play anywhere from 3, 4, or 5, and could come in and bowl 2 overs here and there. And I also think on Stoinis this season, he bowled through the World Cup, and I expect him to open and bowl a couple as well. What about?
I just have so many that I like, but the problem is they've got the bye round too, so I've got to be cautious on how many I'm going to end up running with.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree with you 100%. And I mean, the ones that are in there, and I'll come to you guys, but Stoinis, Clark, Larkin, even Burns, Cartwright, Webster, NCN, Zampa, and Bolt. Either any of those players, they're all SuperCoach friendly for different reasons, and depending where they bat, where they bowl. Dano, who you got and who you like?
Yeah, so I got Stoinis, so I got NCN, Zampa, and that's pretty much it for the start, because they do have that bye next week round. So I wanted to make sure I only had the 4 in there, just to make sure it'll be easier for me to go around. But I am keeping a close on that new signing, young Campbell Callaway as well. A young fella from Victoria just got signed. So just keep an eye on him. Good little batter. So, but obviously, we all know what new batters like. It's very unlikely they get the spot. With that team is pretty fire at the moment. So, but yeah, just keep an eye on him. Young Campbell Callaway. So he's only basement price of 42,000. Yeah, you never know. I don't think he makes it, but you never know what happens these days.
Yeah, I think he's a depth signing, but he probably will make his way onto the field at some point through the season. And if he does, he's in good nick. So I agree with you on that. And it's been quite the talk in a bit of chats as well that I've been in. Rod, who are you liking from that side? Stars.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm on Zampa, on Clark, and Stoinis. And then I'll pick one more to run on the bench. But I'll only have the 4, but I'm pretty locked in with those 3 unless I can't afford Clark, and then I might have 2 cheaper ones. So But again, like every year, Stars have the best depth in the club.
Yeah.
Always do.
Yeah.
And you always think that someone's going to make it in there, and they somehow just don't make it in. Just annoying. So.
Yeah, well, I like Larkin Shout. Just for the record, I have Larkin. I'm playing him from the bench round 1, and but that's interchangeable for me. There's a few that I like at that price point. It was debatable for me, but if I went Larkin or Rosso, and but going Larkin allowed me to upgrade in my bowling a player I liked a little bit better. And sometimes, you save somewhere to pay up for someone you like a little better elsewhere. Rod, did I just go to you?
Yep, you did.
It's you, Dan. Have I spoken to everyone?
Yep.
God, I'm useful as a tits on the ball, guys. It's good.
We took a heap long in Thunder game, but then we just flew through the Stars. So that was
we did.
just way too productive right there.
Yeah, so I'll read out some numbers, guys. So Stoinis, he's 67% owned, right? So a lot of the pundits out there agree with what we're saying about Stoinis. He's 83k 400. His SuperCoach average last year was 28.8, and he got 230 points for the season, and he made a bulk of them in the last game. So that's how bad his season was last year.
He also didn't bowl last year either because of his injury too.
Yeah, or the year before. That's right.
Yeah.
He's been carrying nibbles 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
And look,
and he wasn't opening. Was he opening last year?
Yeah, he was opening. Yeah, he was opening.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he just wasn't bowling. But he wasn't opening well. But look, I believe he bowled through the World Cup. He's up and bowling. So look, we've waited every year for Stoinis to be the Stoinis that we knew 3 years ago. He was in beast mode some time back, and he's even been up as high as 240, 250 at one point there. So he's a fallen gun, a proven gun. So I really like him. Clark,
Glenn, who do I yell at if he doesn't bowl?
Yell at everyone.
You can yell at me if you want.
We all said he's definitely going to bowl this year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that it's more likely than not on previous years based on the World Cup that he's been playing.
Who's the captain now?
Back on the fence.
Yeah. Clark's 153, averages 53. I really like Clark, but my suggestion on Clark is points per dollar. I don't like him based on the fact that he hasn't played in the World Cup and he hasn't been here. But Clark is somebody who can tee off. He's a really good cricketer, a really good cricket player. So, don't go by what I'm saying. It's just my perspective. But Cartwright's the lost man. So there's even a chance that Cartwright goes into that role that Maxi had and bats 3. And so I'll be watching that lineup very closely. And I'm trying to keep money aside so that I can afford to get to Cartwright if that does happen. And NCN, I just wanted to talk on NCN. So NCN, death bowler, proven gun in the past, at 103.2, it's a steal. How do you feel about NCN? I'll come to you, Ross.
My only concern is, he's cheap. Don't get me wrong, and he's proven gun, but I haven't seen him playing any cricket for quite some time. I don't know if he's been playing in that T10 comp or whatever it is over in Abu Dhabi, but he hasn't been playing any Marsh Cup. He hasn't been playing any Sheffield Shield. So I don't know if he's even seen any cricket for quite some time, but he's very injury prone too. That's the thing. Yeah. So it's one of those things. I don't know. It's a good price, but I don't know if I can go there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm worried about injuries too. Does he play both games? Does he only play one? If he only plays one, is 103 worth it for a death bowler? Maybe. So I'll come to you on Zampa, Brod. He's owned by 42%. He averaged 35.7 last year. He had a really good World Cup. We all know what Zampa can do. And at 103k, I personally think for a double, it's a steal. What do you think, Brod?
Yeah, I'm on him, mate. I think he had his worst year that he's going to have last year. Yeah. And he's gunning for, I know it's completely different games, but he wants to go to India with the Australian team. So I reckon he's going to put in a good year to get probably an IPL contract, to then obviously have the time and spend it over there. So I'm all over him. He's my bowler from the Stars that I'll definitely have.
Yeah, I've got Zampa. I think most good coaches will have Zampa and they know what he can do. I'll come to the last one, and that's to you, Dano, is Bolt. We all know how good this man is, but he's 180 too much for him.
Yeah, I haven't got him for that reason, and I'm not going to lie, I'm scared to not own him.
Yeah.
He's a definite death ride if you're not going to own him. So in saying that, you guys have kind of scared me away a little bit of Sam's, so who are very similar price. I could do a clean swap there, which makes me feel a bit safer.
Yeah.
But Bolt, he's a gun. Anytime you spend that much money on a player, it's a bit risky. But especially coming over to Australia, whether he can bowl straight away, hit the ground running on pitches is another story as well. So could be a smart move to hold off a couple of weeks.
So that, I will say this, that doesn't concern me, that particular part. So a batsman coming over here takes a lot more to adjust to our pitches than a bowler does. But you're right. I mean, it's still 180k is a big price point for him. I don't want to share all of my team, but I'll say this much. I have Green at the moment and Rosso, but the other option I have is Larkin and Bolt. I have the option of doing either one of those two combinations. And the more I mean, Bolt's 24% owned. And look, we know what he can do. And I mean, he only needs to get 5 wickets in 2 to justify that price point. You know what I mean? And we all know he's good enough.
Don't forget too, he just played here in the World Cup, and he did prove that he can take wickets and bowl well on our pitches here.
Yeah.
So
and he'll bowl the death. He'll bowl so I don't know what he'll do is he'll bowl 2 up front. He'll bowl the power play one around 12 or 13, and then he'll bowl 1 at the end, which leaves that open for NCN or Couch possibly. Zampa will bowl the other one in the death power play. That's what they did last year. So he'll bowl 2 in the middle orders, probably 6 and 8, 6, 7, sorry, 6, 7 and 8. Yeah, 6 and 8. And sorry, probably 5 now because they stop at 4. So he'll come in when the field opens up, but he'll definitely bowl the other one. I'd imagine with Bolt. You know, our best bowlers bowl. So the old school way of looking at our death bowler that bowled 2 at the end, you've got to really work out who that is going to be bowling at the end, because the gun bowler will come in and bowl that extra 1 at 13. So we'll move on to Adelaide, guys. And after we've done Adelaide, I was going to go to each one of you boys. So any of you want to reveal your sides?
If you live trade happening right now. Live trade right now. Just bringing Bolt in for Sam, so you scared me off.
Oh, so I'm going to hold Sam's until the very end, until right before the game starts. And
that's it. He plays the first game, so you'll know by then.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to yet because I'm still playing with my team. Like I said, I've had one look at it, and that's it. So my team's now when you're ready to go.
Do you know how many people have messaged me and asked me for my team, and how many people I've told to get fucked? I said, not a gem. I want to win, you know. And why am I going to share? And I believe I'm good enough. So Broadwheel, oh yeah, good. I love it, mate. I think you need more thunder.
Probably need more players all over, but
more players all up. So,
that.
I mean, if you're quick and you listen between the, you know, you've heard who we like, who we don't.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take a scholar to work out some of them. Anyway, look, I'm going to move to Adelaide, so I'll read out the lineup, and I did this one a little bit quicker. So if I've got it wrong, you know, someone can apologise. But I believe it's Short, Weatherald, Lynn, Jose, CDG, Kelly, Nielsen, Rashid Khan, Thornton, Siddle, and Conway. I'll come to you first, Roscoe, because you've read some of them. Do you agree with that lineup?
Sounds like it's going to be pretty close to the starting sign-up, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think we're missing anyone there that I could think of. It sounds pretty close to the mark. I mean,
I couldn't decide between Agar and Conway. They were the two that I really struggled with. Agar and Conway.
Yeah, look, Thornton could be one to miss out too as well. So I don't know. I think that's pretty close to the likely lineup that they're going to come in with. So,
he's been good touch, Thornton, hasn't he, Ross?
Has he?
Yeah, he took a 5 just recently. He's been I've been looking at his numbers. He's been bowling really well, Thornton.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an absolute beautiful touch. But I mean, that doesn't always guarantee you a spot in BBL, as we know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why bloody strikers haven't signed up McSweeney, or anyone hasn't signed up McSweeney yet though. He's been in some form this year. It's just
Well,
crazy that he's still unsigned for T20.
on that,
Ridiculous.
mate, there's a good chance Perth do now that they've lost Salt and
Well, I
Mark.
thought they would have already been on to that by now and signed him up.
Mm. Well, they will sign someone. They're probably looking at an international and a local, and I believe the local could be someone like Sweeney. He's another
Yeah.
one that's in fine touch, and he's
He'll come in cheap too. He'll come in cheap at like 62k. So if he's batting 3 or 4, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking for that, mate.
Shit.
Absolutely. All right,
Straight in
so
my team for the double.
we agree on the lineup. So let's move to the next page. So who do you like? And there's a lot to like. That one of the problems with this side is there's a lot of good players in it, and but the downside is that some of them are quite freaking expensive. So I'll come to you first this time, Rob, because I've been going to Roscoe first every time. Who do you like from Adelaide, mate?
So obviously Rashid Khan, like always, like every year. Just sucks we don't get to see him for the whole one this year. As much as I'm a Queenslander, I'll get Liddy in. I'm sure of it. And then, to be honest, because they're such a good, well-rounded team, you know, they can steal a lot of points off each other. I probably will go whichever one's the cheapest in there, because they all seem to get some pretty good points. So that's probably where I'll say.
Too. I mean, if the up front bowlers take a couple of wickets, it means it opens up for players like Khan, and then further down the line, the Thorntons and Siddles who will clean up at the end, or Agor, whichever one that combination is. But I was just going to say something on Lynn. So Lynn's moved, for people that don't know, he's moved to Adelaide, and his best averages are actually at Adelaide Oval. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's my understanding of it. So what I really do like Lynn, and but the ownership on the Adelaide squad are higher than any other team, right? So let me just read some of this. So M Short's at 30% ownership, average is 68.1. Weatherall's at 5, he's the lowest. You got Lynn's at 26% ownership. Hosey's at 2%. You got Colin de Graham, he's at 22% ownership.
Yeah.
And you got, I'm not a fan of him at all. Harry Nilsson at 29. Rashid Khan 60%, justified, I would agree.
Yeah.
Harry Thornton's at 1%. 1%. What a pod. I may have that wrong. If someone wants to check if I've got that wrong, it just sounds low. And Siddle's at 2%. Siddle took 30 wickets last season. He's the leading wicket taker of the BBL.
But don't forget, he only just got named in the squad a couple of days ago, so that'll change.
Yeah,
that'll definitely change, 100%. But I still think he'll be a decent pod for the double for the first round, though.
Yeah, I do too. I really like him.
Yeah.
So, Rod, who have you got in Adelaide, mate?
So I already told you my team because you're losing it tonight.
No, because I went first. Yeah.
I'll let you know that the thought number is correct for you. So,
as you can see, guys, we're in fine form. Tragics. This is
You sure you haven't been drinking, Glenn? You sure you haven't been drinking?
No, I don't drink. That's the problem.
Maybe need to.
Maybe I need to drink. Yeah, it's Ross. Sorry, I'll come to you, mate. I forgot Rod first because I've been going to Ross.
I've got Rashid Khan, obviously, in my team. I've got Matt Short in my team at the moment as well. And I've got Chris Lynn. I'll probably set up Lenny as my bench, one of my bench loops options. I don't think I'll start him, but I'm scared to not own him. But the other thing is Matt Short too. I can't leave him out this year. He burnt me so badly last year when I said that he can't keep going. And by the time I got to bring him into my team, it was far too late, and he was just super expensive. So, I have to run him this year. He's nearly 200k, but I just don't know if he's going to bowl much this year. To be honest with you, I don't know. That's the thing. You might sneak a couple overs in here and there, but at least he's going to be opening the batting anyway. So I guess it justifies it, sort of, I suppose.
Yeah. So my suggestion is that you keep Short as, if you got all rounders at bat and at bowl, put Short up at bowl. So that way, if you don't like the way the Adelaide side's named, you can change him to a bowler. You know, so that's just a bit of advice to some of those out there. I've actually faded one of them. I'm not going to say which one, but I'm going for a big fade this year. I still
Please
not.
don't tell me it's Rashid.
I'm not going to say it's Rashid. But
So we know so it is Rashid then. Okay. Thanks, Glenn.
Look, he's gone in, he's gone out, he's gone in, he's gone out, and I don't even know if I'll do it. But there's just this thinking of mine that I really like the idea of owning Thornton and Siddle together as the two death bowlers. And I don't know if that's what I'll run, or if I'll run Siddle and Khan, Thornton and Khan. But between those three, I really like all three of them. But yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. What about you, Dano? Who you got and who you like?
Yeah, well, I've got Lynn, Short, Rashid, and I definitely want looking at Siddle. I haven't changed the team since a couple of since the signing. So, but Siddle's a definite player that I want to get into my team. A couple others I guess I'll talk about because we've already spoke about the rest of them. Is one guy that can get a decent score, but he is risky. But he's actually quite cheap, and that's Weatherald.
Yeah.
He can get a bit of a score on him. Especially if they're playing at Adelaide first game as well. He loves playing there.
Yep.
So he's one of those guys that you chuck on the bench for a sneaky potential loophole option if you need to.
Yep.
And one player that I really like, I think he came from the Scorchers. That's Tom Kelly.
Yep.
I know that the bowling attack is really, really good there. So that's the only risk there if he makes the team at all. But Tom Kelly, he's a good bowler.
Yeah, he is.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of a different Kelly. My bad, guys. I'm thinking of a different Kelly.
Yeah, you're thinking of
You're thinking of Matt Kelly. You're thinking of Matt Kelly. Thomas Kelly's a batter. He's not a bowler.
Yeah, I thought.
We'll edit that in the end, I think. There's a lot of fringe players there in this team that you need to be careful on. Like you guys said, we agree with the starting lineup, but there's so many guys that can jump in and out of that quite easily.
Yep.
Yeah. So I really like Weatherald as a sneaky, risky loop option. But I also don't like looping teams that are playing double games second.
Yeah.
I like to. I'll be looping the Stars or Thunder.
Yep.
That way, if they fail, I can replace them with the strikers double gamer, so it's less risky that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, that's for those that don't understand that concept. Playing off the bench, looping your player in, and most people will have 3 Perth players or possibly at least one of them, so they can swap players around. What it basically does is if you play that player in the first round and they don't do too good, you can bring your other player off the bench and bring your Perth player off. So, you have your Perth player on the field and you have for example, have Larkin on the bench. You have Salt if you had Salt on the field. And then if Larkin doesn't kick it, you move Larkin off and then move on your other Adelaide player and Bob's your uncle, or you may have an all-rounder there like a Shadab or somebody else that, somebody might be keeping or a Majib or a Vince or some of those players points per dollar. So is there anyone that I've left out? Because what I'm going to talk about next, guys, is the value picks. I've made a little list here of the players that I think are points per dollar value, and I'm interested to see. So this list I will go through with you, and I'll start off with, from the Heat, Max Bryant, who's burned us all so many bloody times, but he's 95k, averages 32 last year, so he's shit. But we all know that this kid can kick. He just gets to 25, 30 and he never kicks on. But the way he scores is what's impressive. He goes after the ball, and that's what you want from a Supercoach player. He'll give you strike rate, and when he does get it, this kid's going to get 50 or 60 from 20 balls very soon. But I've been saying that for 3 years, just quietly. I'll start with you, Ross and Bryant. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's risk with reward, isn't it? He's one of those players that can either go rocks and diamonds as well, but God, yeah, been burnt before with him. This is the thing. So yeah, I might consider it when the double comes up, but I won't be starting him though.
There's another one that so I'll do the Heat ones first, because there's 2 others that I think points per dollar around the same price point are Nisa and Bryant. Sorry, it's Webson. I'll come to you you're a Queenslander. I love Queensland. Brod, Nisa, what do you think about Nisa?
Yeah, look, obviously that's where my heart lies. So I like to obviously have that extra one in there. So if they go good, but yeah, I just don't like the trust of the coach. normally, but obviously he's taken over the 50 over side. So he's doing both. So there's probably a little bit more loyalty that I like there this year. So the Bryant, the Sweepson, Ness is probably a little bit on the edge for me, but the other two, I probably will start them on my bench, because if they go well, then the money's there straight away. So
just to warn people out there, that don't stack too many Heat on your bench. So Heat play round 1, they have a bye round 2, but in round 3 they play a dual game. So players like Brian Neeson and Swepson, who I'm going to come to next. Thoughts on Swepson, Dan?
Yeah, I actually got both those guys in my team at the moment. I've got the 2 Heat players in my team preparing for round 3. So I had Bryant, and then I really like Nessa. But I think Brod is also correct in that Nessa, a very similar player to like a Wildermuth, for example, where those guys are kind of interchangeable as well. So it's a risky one with Nessa, but I think with Nessa, because you got the option of bowling as well, he bats pretty low on the order, but we all know Heat can have a bit of a collapse here and there, and Nessa's kind of needed. But I love Swepson, and I'm leaning to having those 2 on my team, but those 2 are the first to go out if one of my benchies fails as well. If one of my benchies fails and I can't loop, they're the ones to go to sacrifice for the loophole.
So just before we move on to the other players that I've got cheap at the points per dollars, I just wanted to point out something that you pointed out, Dan, which is actually correct. So Basley, Neeson, Bartlett, Steckity, Wildermuth, or even Prestwidge, all play a similar type role in that team. And so you're right. I mean, Wildermuth hasn't even made my starting 11, and we'll do the Heat and the other sides in our next pod, and we'll talk more about them. And I've actually written down strike rates and everything for them. I've been a little lazy on tonight's. I usually write down your strike rates and their averages and stuff like that. So I've been a bit lazy. But the ones I want to talk to you are, and I'll just quickly name through them, and then we'll have a quick chat about some of them. So Tim David, Roscoe, 89.7. He's earned the right to come in at 15 this year. He should bat a lot more this season, in my opinion. But Hobart don't have a bye round to round 8. What do you think about Tim David's role, mate?
Yeah, I don't know whether they're going to bat him. This is the thing. Is he going to stick in that 5 to 6 role and then come in for the those last few overs, or are they going to bat him up the order a bit more? I'm still trying to work out Hurricanes batting order, because I think Wade and Short may open, but not Wade and Short. Wade and McDermott I think will open, and I think Short will come 3. I think Jewell will probably come in around 4. I think maybe David at 5 or 6, but I just don't know. It's hard to know, but David, if David's not in that top batting in that top 4, I don't even think he's even worth it for the double, to be honest with you. It's not worth it for me.
The thing about those, so they've got 3 players that are very similar as well. They've got that Ali, they've got David, and you just named the other one. I forgot who it was. David, Ali, and Shadab Khan. So all 3 of them play a similar type of with the bat anyway. Go after the ball. But I believe David will come in. Despite the order named, at 15, if someone falls and there's 5 weeks to go, I just feel like David will come in and finish it. I could be wrong, but he'll play that Faulkner-like type role as the finisher, and he's shown that he can do that. But whether it's worth owning him on the bench now, points per dollar makes sense. He'll make you some money, but are you going to play him with all the jewels that we've got up front?
Yeah,
I'm not sure we will. I'll come to you now. Who am I up to? You wait up. I started marking it and I still got it wrong. Dano. Joel Paris.
I think he's too fringe. I like him. He's a good bowler. Very, very consistent bowler, I noticed.
Gun bowler.
Been bowling well.
Yeah, so consistent, but I'm not sure. And he's pretty quick too. If he gets that spot, which team is he signed for now? He was with Perth before, wasn't he?
He's with Hurricanes.
Okay, okay, so that's this, So he reminded me of like his accuracy and his consistency was like that Glen McGrath style, where he was always pinpoint on the mark every time. And to me, that normally doesn't get the wickets, but what it does is it gets the low economy. So if you're looking for a safe score, I like it. But if you're looking to get that breakout big score, it might not be the one.
I think with Meredith and Ellis, who are I think are both incredible bowlers, if he does make that side with those two, he could find him cleaning up. Look, Paris reminds me of Jai Richardson, actually. I haven't seen him play in the BBL for a couple of years, but the year he came in for Perth, he was on. He is an absolute gun. But having said that, he was playing at the Wagga on a pitch that was conducive to how he bowls. Flat out absolute pace.
I think Joel Paris definitely makes the squad, especially now Tom Rogers has gone over to Renegade, so he'll definitely be in there. So I don't think I have no hesitations in him getting that spot. He'll be in there for sure.
Yeah, well, that's how I played it too. I think Meredith and Ellis will be the strike, and then that's quite a bowling.
I watched him some of that game, that tour match against West Indies. He bowled well. He bowled really well. Like you said though, Dan, he doesn't take a lot of wickets. He'll take a couple of wickets, but his economy is just so good. He's just he's a very tight bowler.
Kind of like the way Berendorf bowls, how he's very consistent, gets that low economy at the start, and then
So the next one I'm looking at, guys, is Vince. 99.9k, so it's just under 100k. Plays for the Sixers. They've got a dual game round 5. Thoughts on him, Dano? Brod, sorry.
Vince is a bit hit and miss. I was going to just roll with the punches, mate. I don't want to make you look like an idiot again, but that's cool.
I don't think we need to help him with that.
I think, Dan, you need to go back to hosting next week.
What happened? I missed it.
I just said I was rolling with the punches, mate. I know it wasn't my turn, but I was just going to answer anyway, just make you look better.
Mate, I ticked as I did each person. Ross, Brod, Dan.
You sure those glasses have actually got lenses in them?
And look, I haven't got much to say about Vince anyway, mate.
Seriously. I think he's a value pick. I actually think if you're looking to get a Sixers player for round 5 and you want to get one in early, he could find himself 120, 130k by round 5.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion on him. But all right. The next one is Ross. I'm going to fucking pick these so I don't get them wrong. Party. Ross, Party.
Yeah, it's an interesting one now, isn't it? With it's all going to depend on what happens, whether they replace Salt and Marsh, obviously, who they replace him with. But I read an interesting article the other day. I think it was today from somewhere from Honeyball. It might have been. Shout out to Honeyball for the great job that you do with posting all your articles in the groups and that as well. Yeah. About the coach saying that Hardy should play a bit more of a role this year, could bat higher up the order and should bowl as well. So I think he's about 90k, somewhere around about there. So
99.8.
Yeah, it's just going to depend. I just want to see their side first. Like I couldn't start him, but I just want to see where he's going to bat and what the team makeup's going to be before I can make a decision on him. But I think if he's batting, say, 5 and he's bowling 3 or 4 overs, at his price, he's definitely an option. But it's a wait and see for me first.
So on what you just said, Roscoe, so what I usually pick when I'm picking my Perth players is people that I know what their role's going to be. People like Agar, for example, I know exactly what he's going to do. Ty, Richardson, Dorf, for example, we know they're exactly what their role's going to be. So I always look at them and I think, well, at least I know their role. Whereas if you pick a Hardy or someone else that, that he could be a 6 bowler and bat 7, or he could, with Sold Out and Marsh out, he could elevate up that order. And I see, moving up the order. I said that to you the other day in chat before. But on Honeyball, just as you said, Honeyball is the main writer for cricket. He writes some incredible stuff. Tim Williams as well, and Tim Mitchell. All, write some really good stuff and big cricket tragics. So, but Honeyball stuff we'll post on our page all the time, guys. And look, I fuck up all the time tonight, and I don't give a shit. Like it's all about having fun, We're not bagging each other and having banter. We're not playing SuperCoach.
He actually messaged me the other day and said we're doing a pod again this year, so he's pretty keen to jump on for a couple of pods this year too. So it'll be good to have his insight as well.
Yeah, and he has such good insight in the game. I mean, he really knows cricket. I love cricket, and love rugby league. But I mean, rugby league, I can tell you every stat because I just am such a fanatic with it. Well, he's like that with BBL on steroids. You know, he absolutely knows his stuff. So if you're not doing Honeyball's page, I post his stuff on our page. You post it on BBL Central.
Yeah.
The links are with it. So you can just click that link and it'll take you straight to his page.
Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Because he posts up some really good articles on there.
Yeah, and also Max Bryant writes some good stuff as well. Yeah. There's a few of them out there, and we'll try and we got Maxi on last year, and we got Honeyball on last year, and we'll probably try and get him on and Kane on. And there's Ado does pods. There's a whole group of gents out there that do really good stuff. 360 are throwing stuff up, and you know, they're about as
and the experienced boys too.
That's what I was about to say. Sorry, guys. Yeah. And they're a good group of blokes as well. Sam and Michael and Jake and Code. Yeah. So check out all their stuff, guys. So I had one more I was going to talk on, which was this one. I really think points per dollar is worth starting on your bench. And so I'm going to go to you, Dan. And this is Majib. Tick.
I love Mujib. I do. I love Mujib. I think he's that wicket taker. Any mystery spinner. And he's playing for the Renegades now, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. And playing in Melbourne as well. Melbourne pitches, they spin nicely. So I'm really liking Mujib as a great option. What's he valued at? I haven't even looked at him. I've been looking at I've got my team set up where I've got double gamers and buy set up for the first
so it's
2 rounds.
118k 800. I swapping him and Nisa. I thought Nisa would get called into the test stop side before Morris did, so I had Majid.
Yeah.
And when Nisa went back in, I realised that his role looked better. I've actually bought in Nisa, but Majib is definitely in my early plans. I plan on getting him round 2.
Yeah,
I've built for round 2 already.
So someone can correct me here, but wasn't Mujib about 200,000 last year to start the season?
I know it was last year.
He was very expensive at one stage last year.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was very. He finished the season off real bloody well. You know, the not last one the year before. Yeah, so he's definitely got that upside potential to be. Definitely a gun.
He's a genuine spinner. He's a absolute brilliant.
So he started the season at 187k.
Yeah.
And he finished the season at 142k.
Yeah.
But he only had one score of 106, one score of 95. The rest of it was pretty dog crap, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he had an ordinary BBL last year, but look, he is a genuine wicket taker, and I think that we'll go over the Renegade side next when we do our pod with Perth and another side. I can't remember which one I've got in order, but we'll go over that and we'll talk more on the G, because I like talking about the attacks. Like we talked about the Adelaide attack and we talked about the Stars attack and how other players complement other players, you know what I mean? And I think that Majid will complement that side really well. I'll just let me quickly see if there's anyone else here. So Rosso, Farak, we've talked about. So the last one I'll talk about, and I'll come to you, Brod, is Bo Webster. I believe with Maxwell out, that he could be the next. He could play a very Maxwell type role. And I read a post today by Tim Williams in the SuperCoach Playbook that I spoke to that too. I think it was him or Maxi. If I've got it wrong, I apologise, Max. It was one of them two boys.
Don't worry, boys. He can't even remember our names. So
that's right. Yeah,
and he talks to us all the time. So don't take offence to that.
I'm getting old, guys.
Bo Webster. Who's the captain of the Stars now?
Oh no, Max is out. That's actually a good question and one I don't know. I did write it down. Let me have a look.
Isn't it?
Would MCN be up? Maybe.
No,
MCN wouldn't be.
Was it Burns or Cardi or something?
I don't remember. I mean, Cardi would be interesting, but I actually don't know. And for some reason, I haven't got Stars here. I knew I was missing one.
Well, that's whoever, and when we can figure that out, whoever that is will probably depend on my Webster.
I'll find out.
Zampa would be my shout.
Does Zampa ever captain? But I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. Stoinis,
I don't think he has.
Zampa. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I actually don't know the answer.
I'll find out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mate.
So
I'll just bring Stars in a minute.
When we find that out, that will depend on if I'll go him I do like Webster. I do like what he offers. You know, he can make a quick 50.
Could he
and he can also take
possibly be the
wickets.
captain too?
That's what I'm thinking, man.
Who's that?
I've got a real
Webster could
thought.
even be the captain, maybe.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, if he is, that'd be interesting. Like I said, that number 3 rolls up for grabs that Maxi's dropped. And I mean, it could be anyone from Burns, Webster, even Cardi, Larkin. You know, all 4 of those could drop into that 3rd spot. And it'd be interesting. I mean, if Webster was captain. You know, I have this theory that sometimes people that are captains don't bowl themselves as much. Sometimes you're better off not being the captain because they'll throw the ball to you. And they don't want to bowl themselves because they want to make sure everyone gets a roll. Maxi's not like that. Maxi will take the ball anytime and have a crack, especially after wickets are dropped. You know, he's a little bit more selfish. And Madison, there's a few players out there that'll bowl themselves, but there's others that won't. But I really like his role. That's why I've mentioned Bo Webster. I think that and based on an article I read today by Max Bryan or by Tim, they alluded to the same conclusion.
So, according to SuperCoach Guns on Twitter, they haven't appointed their captain yet, but he's saying it could be Stoinis.
Stoinis, right?
So
right.
I don't know. He's not, but that's not confirmed.
So
I doubt
SuperCoach Guns.
it'll be Stoinis at all.
I don't think it'll be Stoinis. I think it'll probably be it'll be maybe Webster or someone like that, or Burns or something. I don't know.
But just for those that don't know, SuperCoach Guns has put in a side in the Shane Warne Cup, and he's also doing pods now with Adrianosaurus. Is that correct? Did I read somewhere that they're doing pod together? I haven't quite caught Adrian.
Yeah, they're going to. That's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's quite knowledgeable on cricket too. And so, you know, get in and listen to them. And there's not as many BBL pods as we have as NRL. It's our first pod, guys. We're not as organised. It's all their fault. I'm on point. They're just, I'm carrying the 3 of them.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
You're just going to the wrong people every single time.
That's right. All right, guys. So that's all I wanted to talk about tonight. Read the sides. I thought that we'll keep it short and succinct because that's the feedback that I've got from viewers, that sometimes they can go a little long. And I tend to concur with that. I think if people can put them on in their cars. Dan does a lot of work for these pods, guys. So just to give you some roles, after I do this and I can compile it, I'll hand it to Dan. Tell him what you do with it, Dan.
I just chuck it up on Spotify and YouTube. Do a bit of editing, nothing too serious. But yeah, just do a bit of editing, chuck it on YouTube, and then onto Spotify. That's pretty much everything I do, but it takes a little bit of time to compile and stuff, and then should be up and ready to go by tomorrow morning.
Awesome, yeah. So I'll throw this pod up tonight. It'll probably be up a bit late. And look, I apologise to Timbo. We've got a bit of a crew this year, so I'm not sure exactly who it is, but Tim was supposed to join us tonight, and but we'll get Tim on the next one, and we're all going to take turns at hosting. So there'll be Dan, there'll be Ross, there'll be Tim, and myself hosting at different times, and you know, we'll try and get the best content out to you as we can, and we'll put out a few before each round discussing the stuff. We'll go through the bye rounds, we'll go through the other sides we've left out, and we'll also so we'll get someone else to host the next one and so on, because we want to have it in a position where we've always got someone. At the moment, guys are working, doing different things, so not everyone's available at the same time. So we've built a team of 8 or 10, I think. We've got another guy, Alan, that's coming to join us this year as well. So before we go, I'll come to you, Brod. Anything else you want to tell anyone about your cash leagues or anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Just don't leave it to the last minute. Even though this pod isn't live, I've filled up half the spots that I had head-to-heads while we've been doing it. So there's only a couple left. There's a couple of people left to pay me.
What are the cash dividends, bro? So if you're in the $100 cash league, and how many enter, how much do you get for first and second? Like, how does it sort of divvy up?
So $100 head-to-head is 12 men this year, so it's $11.90 cash. So, and I'm paying out top 2 in 12 mans this year. So, you know, winners are taking home 700-800.
Nice.
Which is a really nice little prize. And then obviously overall depends on how many runners I get. So it's top 2 up until 10. I'm pretty sure they're all about to hit over 10 now. And then depending on the money situation, I'll probably go top 3 for 14, top 4 for 18, top 5, 20. just making it fair that obviously the winner does get a pretty good sizable chunk.
Nice.
So,
and Dan also helps me do the Shane Wall Cup. I mean, we've got 60 runners in this year, which is quite a big lot. We're going to do 30 each. So usually I used to get them done the following morning and have them out that day, but Dan works. So we'll get it out before the round starts each time. That's the promise that I can give you. And is there anything else you want to add, Dan, or say?
Not really. Yeah, just you'll get used to our pods, guys. We tend to ramble on a little bit, but we kind of run it like a bit of a round table.
Yeah,
everyone's pretty equal, and we try to just have a bit of a conversation. Really, that's all it is. So, yeah, you'll hear it's more like having a beer with the boys and just having a chat about cricket. So,
yeah, that's the whole idea. It's not like we just all come in. That's how it kind of started. Like we talk anyway, most of us, about cricket and chats for, and I talk with my son and different people on the phone for long periods of time. So why not do it online where other people can tune in and, pick up what we're thinking. And all of us have played SuperCoach for a long period of time. Some of us have done really well in SuperCoach, and other years we don't do as well. It's the nature of the beast. Roscoe, anything you wanted to add other mods or something?
Yeah, I just want to add that nothing stated in my contract that I was going to be hosting on this podcast either. So we might have to take that one off air and maybe fix up a few more extra dollars with that one, mate. On a serious note, no, just jump on some of the other pods. Don't forget, we've got the guys doing. We're also doing the 360 podcast for BBL as well. There's plenty out there, so get in and support all the other podcasts too. Don't just, it's good to get an insight other people's, what they're thinking as well. So, but yeah, other than that, that's it. Looking forward to the season starting. So
can I just say, as the furious leader, that I can veto that contract. So what I can actually do is, what are you on now, mate? I'll double it.
Oh, okay, that's good. So they'll go from 50 cents an hour to $1 an hour. That's good. Awesome.
pretty sure it was 0 cents to 0 cents, mate.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That I'm quite happy to even triple that.
Don't work at Woolies, mate. I get more than that.
Well, anyway, yeah, so make sure you jump on. So what I was going to say that Ross didn't was, he also runs BBL Central. We run SuperCoach BBL Tragics, which is
and weapons, and BBL weapons too.
And weapons, and he's a part of the 360 podcast. And don't forget, there's Kane out there who's running a community called oh, come on, bloody memory. Podmasters. Yeah, the Podmasters League. And which he's doing a fine job in bringing all the community together. So all of us that run pods and do all the contributors have all been brought into one community around Kane. So thank you, Kane, for that, and to all the other contributors. All right, gentlemen, I'll see you next time. I apologise for them, mate. They'll get better. And have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
So you want to be a champion?
Men plus the keeper around the batsman.
Here we go. Fleming took the last one. Merv Hughes before him.
That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne, a great moment in his career. What a catch by David Boot. You won't see many better catches at forward short leg than that one. The Aussies are all around, and have a look at that.